Alright boys, so I finally finished my Magic Find Lightning Arrow Huntress, and I wanted to go ahead and get the build guide over to you guys. I'm sure you saw all those clips from the intro. They are all from today, the bosses, all the drops, everything. I played for about 3-4 hours, and that was what the build was able to produce. You know, I did juice up the Atlas pretty well. If you're interested in how I was juicing my maps, there will be a video down in the description, and I go over everything. I explain everything, you know, from what I look for in towers, tablets, how I roll my maps, all that kind of stuff. So all that will be in the description if that's what you're interested in. Otherwise, let's just get right into it. Currently, the build is working with, let's see, what do we got rarity wise? 137 rarity, so it could be higher, but it has been, you know, making the difference over 100. Every percentage that I've been adding over 100% feels like it's making a difference. Again, maybe I'm incorrect, but 137 feels way better than 100, but 100 didn't feel that much better than 60. So I don't know if there's like a tipping point or whatever, but that's what we're sitting at right now is 137 rarity. Getting into the gems, we are again sitting at 117,000 tooltip, so that's decent, but we should be able to get that up a little bit higher. In Lightning Arrow, we use Deliberation, Lightning Infusion, Martial Tempo, Bullseye, and Fork. We use Tornado Shot with Overabundance, Persistence, Soul Thief, Font of Mana, and Font of Rage. This just helps us generate rage, mana, and it also leeches depending on where it is. So this is not a huge damage dealer. This is really primarily just to buff us and our arrows. So you're not going to put out, but it is a very useful ability. Lightning Rod with Primal Armament, Minion Pact, Elemental Focus, Overextend, and Concentrated Effect. Rain of Arrows with Lightning Exposure, Conduction, Volt, and Strip Away. Volt, again, we're not taking advantage of the chain and all that kind of stuff, but we rarely cast it, and we've done a lot of running around and stuff, so we just, you know, we're taking mainly advantage of the lightning damage per 10 voltaic charge consumed. So again, this could be a number of other things, but it feels good, helps with shock, all that kind of stuff. So that's what we're using there. Barrage with Ingenuity, Premeditation, Arcane Tempo, Murderous Intent, and Second Wind. Row Amount with Elemental Army, Minion Mastery, Loyalty, and Meat Shield. And let me just go ahead and say with if you're using Row Amount, this is what you want. If you're not using Row Amount for whatever, I'm not sure why you wouldn't, because it's absolutely fantastic. But if you're not using Row Amount, you'll need to replace Minion Pact in your Lightning Rod with maybe Close Combat would be a good one. And you also don't want to use Deliberation. You might want to move it like Long Shot or Ambush is very, very good here. But if you're not using Roa, don't use Deliberation and don't use Minion Pact. Again, if I wasn't, I would use Close Combat and Ambush here. Going back down, now we have Wind Dancer with Bludgeon, Pin, Wind Wave, and Arm's Length. Herald of Thunder with Long Shot, Magnified Effect, Reach, Enervate, and Lightning Mastery, and then Mana Remnants with Precision. So that's what we've been using. Feels great. What I will recommend is that Mana Remnants is great for mapping, and you very rarely need to use a Mana Flask, but against bosses, you do want to make sure you have a % of recovery applied instantly, just because you'll need to spam it a couple times during boss fights to get your mana back up, because we don't have Leech or anything like that. So, and you won't be getting mana on kill so against a big boss, so make sure you have increased recovery or applied instantly. All right, that's important here, but Mana Remnants is more than enough for maps. A million of them drop, and it keeps you overcapped, and it's really, really good. So that's our skill gems. Getting into the gear. So now a lot of people have asked why Huntress over Deadeye, and basically everything on Deadeye, because we don't use charges, you can't frenzy charges and stuff like that. That part of Deadeye is much better than Huntress for frenzy generations and things like that. And then Deadeye has additional projectiles, which again we're getting out of our bow here. This is a nice bow, so you're going to want to add additional projectiles as you go. You know, initially start with a Gemini bow, and then get a Gemini bow with an additional projectile, and then eventually you'll get a Gemini bow with 2 additional projectiles. This is not ideal as far as prefixes go. I would prefer to have percent, or I would prefer it just to be a fizz bow, so percent fizz, percent hybrid fizz, and then accuracy. accuracy, maybe even hybrid fizz with accuracy, flat fizz, and then huge accuracy roll. Again, this is missing the accuracy roll, arguably the most important part, but this is a very, very nice bow still, so this is what I'm using for now. I did craft this, I fractured it, I did all that kind of stuff, so I started this one from the ground up, and this is what I ended up with. I will craft another one that has better fizz, but you know, the lightning's really nice, all that kind of stuff. So again, kind of going back, Deadeye has tailwind and additional projectiles. You can get your additional projectiles here on your bow, and then if you really, really wanted tailwind, you could use the unique helmet that provides tailwind. I don't think it's personally worth it. I think our attack speed and damage output is good enough, but if you really wanted tailwind, you can get it for a 10 Exalt unique helmet. So for charge-based builds, Deadeye is probably better. For projectile-based builds, Huntress, it's hard to say it isn't, just because the damage output per arrow is simply so much higher. You get a ton of flat fizz. It's really easy to cap your crit chance, which it's not on Deadeye. It's very difficult to get high crit chance on a Deadeye. So again, personally, this build feels better than my last league's Deadeye. I absolutely love it. That's why Deadeye is a great option as well. But it is hard to say that this isn't better right now. Because again, the projectiles, and now with the tailwind helmet, it's hard. So getting into the quiver my quiver is very, very nice. Flat fizz, flat lightning, physical or damage with bow skills, projectile skills, crit chance, crit damage, and then attack speed. The accuracy quiver is also very nice here. But this is a nice quiver. Quivers are fairly cheap this league. This one not particularly, but you could get a very, very nice one for much, much cheaper than it was last league. So that is one nice thing. Rings, we're looking for flat damages, rarity, life, attributes, resistances, stuff like that. But we do want damages here. Again, rarity is also really nice. You do pay a premium for the rarity, so you can add that in later. But again, resistances, attributes, flat damages, lightning damage is nice as well. As far as the amulet, you need some spirit, and that's basically all you need. But then obviously we're looking for life, accuracy, projectile skills, crit chance, resistances, attributes, whatever it is that you may need. But the mandatory here is spirit. Helmet, same thing, resistances, attributes, rarity, life, evasion, or whatever it is. If you can always work energy shield into the build. I did for a while, but now it's gotten to the point where having, evasion has been good enough, and we have enough life and all that we don't die too much, but we still take some deaths. Gloves, nothing special here, just flat damage, life, attributes, mana on kill. So my recommendation is you can use % mana on kill jewels. I personally recommend trying to get the flat, just because this 31 flat represents about 2% jewels in my tree. So just because we don't have a ton of mana, so 2% of a low amount of mana just isn't very much. So the flat on gear, and just using one line on your gear, you can get it on rings, you can get it on a bow, you can get it on gloves. Gloves is probably the best place to get it. Rings is also pretty good. But I recommend the flat over the %, just because we don't have a ton of mana. Now, if you do have, gear with a ton of mana on it and you're up there at 1,000 or whatever, then the 2% is good. But again, if you were at 1,000 mana, then 2% would be 40, and this one line is 31. And I don't have to use any jewel sockets. Boots, same situation, rarity, resistances, life, and then movement speed is very, very important. So get as much movement speed as you can. And then, again, you're filling in resistances or attributes or whatever it is you may need. As far as body armor, so with both the body armor and the belt, you're just going to use rare versions of these, not rare versions, but just rare body armors and belts until you can afford these things. I would get the body armor before you get the belt. The belt is the very last thing, and absolutely not mandatory for the build. You're more than welcome to just use a rare belt with resistances and things like that, and then you may be able to, if you get a warrior that doesn't need the resistances, and you can get spirit or more defenses or whatever the case is, but Headhunter, not mandatory. Warrior, not mandatory. Obviously, we get a ton of rarity out of this. I still have to, unfortunately use one resistance, just because it's so difficult to get with the more uniques that you're getting, and that's that. So again, this is what we need: attributes, life, resistances. They are difficult to come by, so you are going to need to work them in wherever you can. And then again, the belt, It is the best in slot for mapping. It is not the best in slot for bosses. It's my build now has so much damage in it that I don't need to switch belts, or I don't need ingenuity. I don't need a rare. I can just use this, and it works just fine for me. But it is a detriment while you're leveling and stuff like that, and struggling with bosses a little bit. You are better off with the rare. So again, rare body armor, rare belt until you can afford these things. I do recommend you eventually go to Warrior, Headhunter. That one's up to you. Not necessary, but very, very fun. So that's that. As far as we are using the Orloff's Resolve. If I wasn't, I would just be using the exact same version of this, but on the health flask and just getting recovery applied instantly. The bottom one doesn't really matter. You can do charges, 0.25 charges every second, or increase charges, or whatever you prefer is fine. But you definitely want the instant recovery. All right. And then as charms, we have Chaos Res, Freeze, and Stunned, and then just life anytime it's used. Just flat life, just because chances are we just got hit or we're about to get hit or whatever. So the flat life feels pretty good. Let me go ahead and go over how we actually use the skill gems real quick. So again, when you're just mapping, you're just running around on your Roa and just spraying out lightning arrows. Occasionally, you may throw out a tornado just for like a tough rare or something like that. But generally, that's all you need for maps. For bosses, what you're going to do is as it's spawning in, you're going to throw out your tornadoes and stand in them as we generate rage. So we're just kind of waiting for the boss. As the boss is getting ready to come in, we'll kind of reposition our tornadoes, throw out 3 lightning rods, throw out our rain of arrows. So now he's alive. Barrage, and then lightning arrow, and all of those just explode, and you kind of just spam until the lightning rods are gone, and then once the lightning rods are gone, hit your mana a couple times, a couple more lightning rods, barrage, and we're out. And then that just does an insane amount of damage. And we map bosses, T16, Corrupted, Delirious map bosses get 1 shot all the time. Jest is a 2-shot, so you just need to run through that twice. Tier 4 Breach boss is just a straight up 2-shot. You just need to, if you run through the skills perfectly, he's dead in less than 4 seconds, 5 seconds. It's insane amount of damage. So I did want to briefly kind of go over how you do that. And then lastly, we will finish up with the skill tree. Nothing crazy here as far as our ascendancy. Predatory Instinct, you're going to take first, then Critical Strike, then Penetrate, and then lastly in for the kill. I actually did use Mystic Harvest instead of in for the kill as I was leveling, just so I could get some leech. You just need to find some percent physical damage leeched as life on rings, or you can get it on your gloves. It shows up on weapons as well. So you just need to get that. But this was actually very, very beneficial for leveling when I didn't have as much survivability. So leech was good. Now that we kind of delete everything, in for the kill is really, really nice. So that's that. We just kind of cruise through quiver stuff, accuracy, critical damage, some stun threshold since we're on a Roa. If you're not on a Roa, you don't necessarily need this, but it does benefit the jewel, which we'll go over the jewels here in a second. Again, skill speed, accuracy, jewel socket, come up. Crit node, this is very, very powerful. More crit, some lightning pen, and some max lightning damage. This is a super, super powerful node for us. We cruise through. We do use controlled metamorphosis here, and we take harmonic generator, kite runner, conservative casting, and finesse. Cruise over for a little bit of damage and some crit, and then up to the crit, and then lastly, crit, and a jewel socket. So as you can see, we basically track down all the jewel sockets and crit nodes that we can, and that's what we do. So works out pretty well. As far as these 2 jewel sockets here, we use time lost emeralds, and what you're looking for on this one right here is your most powerful one. Specifically, you want upgrades radius to large and increased effect of notable passive skills in radius. The other ones you want to find beneficial ones, but it's that there's not crit damage, quiver, attack speed, accuracy. There's a bunch of them you can get, but the main 2 that you're looking for this slot is upgrades radius to large and increased effect of notable passives. Reason being is it buffs everything in the region. So as you can see, this is, for instance, 25% damage with elemental damage with attacks, and this is 75 crit damage bonus. If we take this out, this goes to 60 crit damage bonus, this goes to 20. So it buffs all the nodes in the region, and then again, because it has quiver on it, it's also adding 3% equip quiver to every single one of these big nodes. So it's pretty nice there. This one here, you do not need a large or a medium. You just need to get what you're looking for here, the 2 that you want, and then again, build off the 2 is increased effective notables and increased critical damage for attack damage. Okay, they're very, very powerful, especially together, especially in this socket right here. So again, because we're using that effective notables, we have this 25 crit chance and this 35 crit damage along with a 1% crit chance. All of those get buffed. So now that 25 crit chance turns to 30, 35 crit damage turns to 43, and then 1% crit chance turns to 1.23. Now, what you'll also notice is we have 10% increased critical damage here, but they all say 12. And what's really crazy about these is that increased effective notables also buffs the things on its own skill gem. So that 23% is also buffing the 10% critical damage bonus, which then turns all the 10s into 12. So it is absolutely massive. This jewel right here absolutely juices this region, and it's a ton of damage. So again, does not have to be large. The 2 that you're looking for is increased effect and crit damage. Get whatever you can after that. If you want to get large or medium and then maybe take advantage of some of these small ones, that's fine, go for it, but it's not needed here. This one, the 2 you're looking for are large and increased effective notables, and then whatever else you can add to it will be really nice. So again, super powerful. Controlled metamorphosis here. Just get the best rolled one you can. It is a medium large ring. And then as far as our normal jewels, crit damage bonus, attack speed, accuracy, equip quiver, lightning pen, attack speed, evasion, critical damage, all that kind of stuff. So whatever variant you can find of those, by all means, if you have a really good quiver, you're better off with the quiver stuff. But you know, lightning pen we don't have a ton of it, so even just a little bit is kind of nice and feels pretty good. So that's the tree, nothing crazy, and that's that. So again, I appreciate it. You guys like, subscribe, do all that kind of stuff. I think I mentioned at the start of the video, if you're interested in my farming strategy and how I've been farming up all these divines and all that kind of stuff, I will put the video in the description. You guys can go and watch that full. You know, it's all there, everything you need to go in and start juicing, all the tablets, towers, what I look for on the atlas to actually start juicing, all that kind of stuff. So again, like, subscribe, comment, do all that kind of stuff. You guys have been crazy. It really helps the channel grow. Yeah, that's it. We will see you on the next one. Appreciate you guys. Peace.